Andersens, The Emperor's New Clothes by Löfgren. There was once an emperor who was so vain that he spent every penny he possessed, and all the money in the realm, too, upon his clothes. Now one day there came to the palace two rogues who called themselves weavers. "We can make the emperor a suit of clothes so remarkable that it is invisible to all who are stupid or unworthy of their job," they said. "Now that is something really worth having," said the emperor, and he willingly paid the two weavers the outrageous sum they named, and ordered a room to be set aside for their task. The looms were set up, and the servants hurried back and forth, carrying skeins of golden thread and fine silk. Naturally, the two weavers expected extra money for all the goods they ordered. However, the skeins of silk lay untouched on the floor. The weavers were working away busily on empty looms. The emperor heard the clackety-clack of the looms at supper, and was eager to see how the suit was progressing. "But I shall send one of my ministers along first," he thought. "If the cloth is invisible to him, then I shall know he is either stupid or unfit for his job." Smiling at his cleverness, the emperor sent his most senior minister off to the weaver's room. The two rogues greeted the senior minister with enthusiasm. "Is it not a splendid suit? Will not His Majesty look well in this crimson silk? How do you like the pattern on the gold embroidered waistcoat?" The poor old minister was dumbstruck, for he could see nothing at all. "But I dare not tell His Majesty," he thought, "or he will declare me unfit for my job." "Splendid, magnificent, quite the best suit His Majesty has ever owned," he agreed, and hurried off to tell the emperor the good news. The emperor could hardly wait to see his new outfit, but once again he sent a minister along to comment on its progress. "Will not His Majesty be thrilled with his new suit?" cried the weavers, spreading out the imaginary cloth before the minister's horrified eyes. Yes, thrilled," said the minister, who, of course, could see no more than the first man, but rather than admit it, he held his tongue, for he did not want to be thought stupid. Finally, the emperor decided to visit the weavers himself. Surrounded by courtiers and ministers exclaiming on the beautiful cloth, he dared not admit that he too could see nothing at all. "Magnificent!" he cried. "I shall wear my new clothes in a grand procession through the city. Have my outfit ready by tomorrow, and you shall receive yet another bag of gold." "It shall be done, your Majesty," said the two rogues, smiling to themselves. All through that night the two men worked away, stitching and cutting at the empty air. The townsfolk passed by the lighted windows, determined to admire the rich and colorful suit of clothes that had been described to them, but in reality seeing nothing at all. "Truly, the emperor has never had a grander outfit," they said. Next morning the emperor was up early, awaiting his new suit of clothes. "Here it comes!" shouted all the ministers and courtiers. "Truly, His Majesty has never possessed such a wonderful suit of clothes in all his life. It is quite the best of all His Majesty's 999 suits. The material is so fine that it is practically invisible," said a minister, and the emperor had to agree with him. The two weavers arranged the non-existent robes around the emperor's naked body, and stood back so that he could admire himself in the mirror. "Such elegance!" declared the first weaver. "Why, the crimson silk shimmers like the setting sun," said the second. "His Majesty has never looked more noble," cried all the ministers and courtiers. "I cannot believe that I alone am stupid," thought the emperor as he stared at his pink form in the mirror. "I am quite ready now," he declared. "Let the procession begin." Crowds were out in their thousands as the naked emperor walked through the streets under the state canopy. All agreed that the emperor was clad in the most remarkable suit they had ever seen. Now in the midst of all these peoples was one small boy who had not heard of the strange qualities of the emperor's new clothes. The child knew or cared nothing about being thought stupid, and so he cried out, "But the emperor has no clothes on!" Then suddenly, each person in the crowd realized that he was not the only one to see that the emperor was naked. "The emperor has no clothes on," they all cried, and they laughed and laughed and laughed. The emperor realized at last where his stupidity and vanity had led him. But he was, after all, an emperor. So he proceeded in naked dignity through the streets back to the palace. As for the two rogues, why, they were running away from the city as fast as they could, carrying all their golden thread and chests of money. The end.